So I slipped into a YouTube channel called Dr. Daf, the Dr. Daf Show, DAF, and I've only watched three of their videos, or her videos, and it appears to be a channel that focuses on Black American Black issues. Well, so what are you doing on the channel then, Pinky? Well, that's a good question. So, though in the eyes of many of what I believe are ignorant people, white people have no place to discuss black issues. Clearly, I disagree. If you've seen any of my other videos on my other channels, look, we're all in this together, life, humanity. And I'm a big proponent of race relations, but I'm also a big believer in truth is supreme and reality is essential. So I don't cut any corners and I say what I believe. I'm not always right, but I wouldn't say it if I thought I was not, if I wasn't 100% sure I was right. Give me opposing information that is fact-based, not feeling-based, and I am always willing and able to change my opinions. That being said, I'm really in the middle of one of her shows now, and the topic is reparations, and that comes up a lot, and I've spoken on it a lot. And the other topic, because they cover multiple topics, and so they have like little signs, and those are prompts, and the subjects change throughout the show. I highly recommend the show. It's been super awesome. They have Democratic black women versus, talking to Republican black women. Then they have Democrat white women talking to black Republican. It's just very interesting. So I just want to cover a couple of topics as it's in my head, fresh, no script, just see what comes out. I want to talk just a little bit about black reparations and some of what I heard on the show. And this is not the first time I've heard these arguments, but it just has me thinking. Is the pros and cons and the reasons and the justifications for it. That comes from the left. And on the right, the conservative black women appear to be opposed to it for various reasons. So what's the fucking bald white guy have to say about it? Okay, for a little bit of background if you've never seen me before. And this is not a badge of honor. This is background so that you can understand that what I speak from is from experience. I was born into a very bad situation in terms of finances and abuse and alcohol and drug dependency. My mother was a prostitute. God bless you, Mom, but reality is reality. And was very, very violent and abusive and addicted to every drug and alcohol you can fucking imagine. So our family went through a lot of hell, like many of us. But I grew up in Inglewood, California, and as a little redheaded, I used to have red hair, as a little redheaded white boy in Inglewood and Hawthorne, oftentimes I was like a piece of salt in the pepper shaker. So to say that I've experienced racism from blacks to whites is an understatement. I experienced severe racism. I cannot tell you, I used to have two paper routes, the Daily Breeze and the Herald Examiner, and I cannot tell you how many times, because I had to go across, there was a street, people out west won't know these streets from South Central area. I lived just west of Doty, and the street that ran north and south just east of that was Cornbloom, and if you went east of Cornbloom and you were white, there was no chance that you were coming out of there without wounds and missing some of your property. I had to get into that area on my paper route, and I got jumped so many times. I'm not complaining, it's just reality. I got jumped so many times and bikes beaten out from under me so many times that it actually became kind of funny, because at one point, I remember this distinctly, I've had darts thrown at me, stick me in the back, you'd think I was in the freaking Wild West and an Indian shot me. I came home and had to have a dart pulled out of my back. But, there was this group of young black guys, older than me, sitting on somebody's porch, and I come around the corner, they see me, they stand up. I know the ass whipping's coming because I go there all the time, every day. And this particular group starts walking over, and you can see and I just stop and prepare to take my ass whipping because I was pretty much just a coward. I didn't have any men in my life to teach me anything else. And it was kind of funny because one of them goes, hey, yo, hold up. That's that little redheaded motherfucker. We kicked your ass 3 days ago, right? And they took my bike. The bike I was using was a borrowed bike from a friend of mine. And they were like, yeah, that's right. That man, go on, little man, go. And after that experience, I never got fucked with east of Kornblum again. Not just by those guys. I mean, these guys were in gangs and shit. But the word must have spread because I'd be riding along on streets that I used to come home bloody from, and guys would just be like, "Hey, what's up?" They just accepted that I was the neighborhood cracker. So that was kind of a fun experience, to not be getting beat up every fucking day. So yeah, I've experienced that, robberies. I've seen up close and personal stabbings where I'm like 7 feet away from guys stabbing each other and guts hanging out. Saw it all. So I escaped that and went in the military, got out, and became a Los Angeles police officer, where I spent most of my time working what you guys would call, people not from the area would refer to it as South Central. It was actually in an area called Watts, a little bit further south and east. And I worked in the projects and blah, 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 blah. And I've seen all kinds of crime and crime statistics. I worked Crash, which was the gang police back then. And, oh, you were getting revenge for... No, man. I have had nothing but love and understanding for all young people who are in violent situations, for the most part. About 99% of... That's a whole nother video. I did not I did not hate the gang members that I dealt with. I had empathy for them. I could relate to a lot of what they could. I couldn't relate to being black, but I could relate to living in poverty and roaches running around the house and violence. I could relate to all of that. I'd experienced it. I wasn't some white cop that came from the valley and went down south to work. I felt like I was right at home. That's one of the reasons I wanted to work in Watts. It just felt comfortable to me. Happened to have been a very good rapper at the time. And I'm not talking vanilla ice rap. I'm talking about freestyle and shit that would have blown you away, and did blow quite a few people away. But that's another video. So, on and on and on. This is just as for clarification. I'm not somebody who thinks white is perfect. I've never dated a white woman. My first wife of 20 years was Hispanic. My current wife of 20 years is Asian. For whatever that's worth. Oh, so that means you're not a racist? Well, actually, that is kind of what it means, because the definition of racist means that a true racist wouldn't do that. So anyways, we've got 7 kids. They're mixed. I speak multiple languages, and so that's me. And if that offends you, fuck off. So that being said, reparations, I've given a lot of thought to it, because I follow the debates and the whole thing. Now, I will tell you that my father, though he wasn't in my life as a kid and was actually never married to my mother, he was Jewish. So as I was growing up, my grandpa would come once a month, and my dad's dad, and rescue my sister and I. And we would, learn about the Jewish religion. And we went to Passover. And I have all the pictures, albums, and everything in of my relatives. And the reality is, and I've done the DNA, not for that purpose, but it was sad when you realize that it all stops at a certain date. It just says Holocaust, Holocaust, Holocaust. So the vast majority of my father's side of the family were slaughtered, mostly in Auschwitz and another concentration camp as well. So if not for like 1 or 2 that escaped before that shit started, I wouldn't be making this video. So I am genetically Jewish. European Jews when it comes back. So I would have been marched onto the trains by Hitler's people if I was alive in those times. So I am a Christian for what that's worth too, by choice. I converted to Christianity, or didn't even convert. I just was baptized into Christianity. So that's me. My family on my father's side has known serious discrimination. But when we talk about reparations, I heard one of the arguments on the show was that the Japanese Americans got reparations. And, and I'm just free thinking here, so that doesn't mean these are conclusions. But some of the victims of that, or their immediate offspring, were still alive when that happened. When we talk about reparations for Black Americans, the first question is, how does that work? Now, I already know, I've heard the opposition. I know the answers, one of the answers to this question. But this is a question that has to be explored. Somebody like me, now my family on both sides never set foot in America till long after even the Civil War. So we come from Europe on my mom's side, from Scotland and Ireland. So nobody in my family was on this continent during slavery and long after that. Well, you've benefited from the work of the slaves and the fact that that's what the argument is in many cases. Here's my retort to that. Black people in America have benefited from it too. Now, this is a hard one to swallow, but remember, I speak straight from the heart and I just say shit. I don't want to clean it up because you lose things when you try to talk pretty. The fact of the matter is, slavery was fucked up and it was isolated to a very small part of a big country. A couple things I want to mention that are important to think about. White people did not invent slavery, far from it. Slavery has been around and still exists to this day, if you look at some of the countries in the Middle East. Slavery was not invented by white people. The white people, when they had slaves in those days, and slavery is wrong, don't get me, I'm not justifying slavery, but there were no ships full of white men that ran around with nets catching Africans and bringing them back. They were captured and enslaved by other black Africans and sold to white traders. That's just the reality. I'm sure everybody knows that. And slaves were going all over the world being sold to countries that had slaves. The slaves in America did not rise up and fight for their freedom. And that's not a slap in the face. That's just reality. You take it the way you want it. The slaves in America were freed because white Americans decided that that's not right. It's wrong. And they cared enough about it to go to war with themselves. No, the Civil War was not all about slavery. It was a huge component. I won't even debate it because the slavery issue is what drove people to the battlefield. There was already a lot of division, but that slavery thing was a huge thing. And for what it's worth, it was the Democrats, and the parties never switched. If you believe that, you have been told a lie. You need to look into it. But that was instituted by the Democrats at the time. They were the ones in the South that wanted to fight to keep their slaves and blah, blah, blah. And they wanted to separate from the Union. So little, if anything, is ever taught. I'm 63 years old. I never was taught about the sadness and the horror of so many white men who died on behalf of black slaves in America to get them out of that situation. Black people fought too on the North. That's right, because they didn't have slaves in the North. Now again, all this happened before my people, my genetic people were here, but it's reality. Now, the people that should have got reparations were those slaves that were freed. They should have been given the 40 acres and a mule, and if it was up to me, they should be given $1 million for each year they were a slave. But we have to face reality. The water is muddy now. A lot of time has gone by, and a lot of people are here. A lot of people that had nothing to do with slavery. I'm one of them. What about the black slave owners? There were plenty of black slave owners. What about the mixed races? How do you do this? So when I say reparations have been paid, I look at it this way. Black citizens of America today did not experience slavery, thank God. And the relatives that are too far back for them to even know, and the 99.9 couldn't name if you offered them $1 million, went through hell and paid a terrible price. But the end result was you were born now in a country that treats black people equally, whether you like it or not. Now, if you think that's a bullshit lie, you're a Democrat and you've been lied to, and you're not willing to read history. You're not willing to look around and understand. And I would just ask you this: name one thing, talking to black Americans, that I can do that you can't do. And your answer is going to be, you can't walk through a store without people staring at you because they think you're going to steal shit. And I'm going to ask you, well, what the fuck? Why is that? What is that for? What brought that around? Is that just out of the blue because they don't like the color of your skin? Or does that have something to do with crime stats? One of the topics on that show was over policing. You know, the Democrats are like, they want I couldn't believe the chick in the middle was saying, you know, we need more programs. Defunding the police meant, you know, why are there more police in black neighborhoods? And then somebody says, well, there's more crime in black. Well, why is there more crime in black neighborhoods? You know, because there's more police. So we need programs. Get the cops out, put programs in. And that is the Democratic response to everything. A program. Programs, for the most part, are horse shit. It's just taxpayer money that goes into shit that where people can steal it. Look at all the shit going on with the fake Somalian businesses and shit. It can be pilfered, and somebody's getting rich, and the people that it was designed for are not benefiting. And as a retired cop, I'm going to tell you, you do that. You send social workers into a freaking ghetto where it's a Friday night and bullets are flying, and let me know how that works out for you. Because the reality is, you know, some freaking blood or crip or whatever, they're not interested in your fucking social worker that wants to come and sweet talk them down, you know, when they've been hitting the pipe all day, or maybe they're on PCP or whatever. That was a big thing in my time. You know, there's much more to what's going on with the crime, period, but specifically in black neighborhoods. And that is a subject that should, and a conversation that should be had. But it's not due to over-policing. You know, one of the things I used to get asked all the time, man, how do you work in the projects, man? Isn't that scary? Man, any cop that worked in the projects in those days knew that the 99% of the people living in those projects were good people that were just down on their luck and had bought into that whole generational welfare thing, just like me. I was raised on fucking food stamps and shit. But I broke that cycle. I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to just sit around and not work and get a fucking check all the time from, you know, not that was just me. But they're good people, good spirited people, good citizens, and they are basically under siege by a very small percentage of criminal element. But all it takes is, you know, 3 or 4 teenage hoodlums in a neighborhood to make that neighborhood a freaking nightmare. That's just the reality. I've saw it over and over and over. I saw it before I was a cop, saw it when I was a cop. Now, I live today in a very affluent neighborhood. I live in a very nice neighborhood. And in this neighborhood, there are countless black people, countless Muslims, countless Asians, my wife being one of them. It's pretty mixed. Hispanics. Now, I'm sorry to report this, but when you look at the crime stats, the majority of crime comes from the younger black population, and next in line would be the younger Hispanic population. I'm not a psychiatrist. I have my ideas behind why that is, but the black people that live here are all well-to-do people. Talking about the parents, or they couldn't live here. They have good jobs, and they have beautiful homes and 2 beautiful cars, and they're very nice and polite. But I personally blame what's happening with the young people on this democratic bullshit that is pumping into their heads that they're victims and that everybody owes them something because they're black. So therefore they have a right to run around and take shit that's not theirs. And they have a right to fucking be loud and fuck everything up and do donuts in the middle of the street. That is not as a result of white racism. That's a result of, in my opinion, that's a result of them being brainwashed into believing that they can do whatever the fuck they want because somehow, you know, people they never met and couldn't name for $1 million were slaves. So this is payback. And what the fuck? How's that? So what's going to happen to those guys? They're going to end up with arrest records, and some will end up in prison. Many of those records will follow them, and they're going to just continue to be victims. But they're victims of their own decisions, is what I'm trying to say. And they're victims of these mostly white Democrats that pump this shit into them because they need their votes, and they're willing to cut down an entire race of Americans and keep them stomped down, keep them feeling like perpetual victims. They're willing to do that just so that they can keep getting their votes. That's the true fucking crime in my eyes. But the reparations, as I was going to say, and this will be the end of the video, in my mind are, you are living in the greatest country on earth, even though you might have been bullshitted into thinking it sucks and thinking that you hate it. Go watch all the videos of the black people that when, as soon as Trump was elected, I'm leaving, I'm going to Africa, and how they can't wait to get back. Go travel. I've been all over the world. I've been to the fucking Middle East. I've been to Ethiopia. Look, man, all over Europe. I have nothing against African people, but another channel I watch, I wish I remember the name, is this guy in, where's he at? He's in an African country. That is a disaster, man. There's fucking shit running down the middle of the street, people pissing on the sidewalk, trash everywhere. They don't, and his whole thing is he's exploring, like, why are they not able to engineer a decent city? I don't know what the fuck's going on. I have my own theories, but here's the thing. Africa is not a good place to live. Name the African country that is utopia. And it may sound like it's a great place to live, and people that go live there, 90% of them can't wait to get the fuck back. Because when you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh my God, that looks so good, people that look like me and blah, blah, blah. The African people don't like African Americans. I'm sorry to break the news to you. It's just the way it is. Why is that? How the fuck do I know? I don't know, but they don't like them. They probably wonder why the fuck you would leave a place like America that everybody is trying to break the law and a lot of people are dying to sneak and scratch and claw their way into America. And then these fucking Democrats have people pretending like they want to get the fuck out, like Rosie O'Donnell, who can't wait to get out of fucking Ireland or wherever she is. You guys have to stop buying the bullshit, man. You live in a great country. If your great-great-great-grandfather or grandmother who were slaves when slavery ended, if you were able to go back in time and tell them that we would very soon, relatively speaking, very soon we would have black mayors, black police chiefs, I've worked for them, black doctors, black scientists, black astronauts, and a black president of the United States. If you would have told them that, they wouldn't have believed it. Yet here we are. Here we are. So my advice to black people is don't listen to some white guy. He doesn't know. He's not black. Listen, I don't have to fall into a fucking volcano to be smart enough to know that I shouldn't be sitting on the edge of one. You don't have to experience shit to understand it on some intellectual level. So my advice is to look at where you're at, look at your own ambitions, your own goals. Are you content with us waking up in the morning and feeling that everybody hates your guts because you're black? I've met a lot of fucking people, and I've met a couple of racist people. I've never met anybody that hated somebody just because of their color of their skin. I mean, that's insane. Are there people like that? Yeah, there's people like that everywhere. There's racist everywhere. Are all cops fucking criminals? Are all cops racist? Are all dentists fucking gods? Are all priests gods? Or are there some dentists who are rapists? There's always going to be bad people in every occupation and in every race. Because those careers draw from society. And society is far from perfect. But you will get a lot more happiness and go a lot further in your life, no matter who you are, if you stop looking at yourself as a victim. The minute you feel and allow yourself to be convinced that you're held down, you are holding yourself down. You need to shake that bullshit off. Don't let people tell you how to think, who to vote for. Read you don't even have to read anymore. You can chat GPT shit, man. Just fucking learn the issues. And if by chance your family and friends are voting this way, but you believe this is the right way, then you ought to be voting this way. And if they don't like it, fuck them. This is your life. And by the way, this is your country. You are an American. You should have pride in America. You should have faith in America. And you should be smart enough to understand the topics that are dividing America and pick a fucking side. If you don't vote, you're part of the problem. A non-vote is a vote for the other side. That's just how it works. So you need to participate in life. If you don't like being on fucking welfare, I don't drink alcohol. Why? Because my mom and all of my sisters, I'm the youngest, everybody was a fucking alcoholic. And I had to break that cycle. I know it's genetic. I've got 7 kids. I never wanted them to see me drinking alcohol. You have to scratch and claw and fight your way out of the fucking bomb crater you were born into, and make things different. I live like a multi-gazillionaire compared to how I grew up. I grew up in fucking hotels and motels, and could tell you shit that you would not fucking believe that I witnessed as I was growing up. And in my case, the military saved my life. I ran to them as fast as I could. Give me the fuck. I just wanted to eat 3 times a day and get some fucking clothes. And they gave it to me. And they gave me something else. Give me a fucking backbone. Anyways, that's my video. I hope you got something from it. If you did, subscribe and like. And I don't get anything for this, man. I don't monetize shit. I do this because I care. Stay safe.